Afternoon is Namsa here at Ngozi Talk Shows Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today, I'm with Amanda Kotel and Kamal Ama and Nick Motichka. Amanda, please introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Amanda Cottrell. I'm a teacher, an author, and an illustrator, and I help people empower their lives by connecting to their unique creative capacities within themselves. Namra, do you want to tell us the topic for today that we're focusing on?
Seriously? We're talking about, you didn't say the topic.
But you picked the topic.
It's the rejection. Rejection is normal. What matters is that you keep getting yourself up. I put it everywhere. Put it on social media and I put it in the group.
Okay.
Yeah, topic is all about is rejection normal?
All right, Nick, do you want to tell us about yourself and how you feel about rejection?
It sounds great. So yeah, my name is Nick. I am the founder of a clothing brand here in Canada. And my goal is just to inspire people with my own story and my own journey from my previous life, which I spent the majority of my adult life, or actually the entirety of my adult life, over 20 years in enforcement-related positions and policing and all sorts of interesting places that were completely out of alignment with me and my soul's purpose. And now I'm back on track in alignment, and yeah, just hoping to, I guess, inspire some people with my story. So, and I'm super excited to talk about rejection. Over to you, Kamal.
Thanks, Nick, and nice to see you again, Amanda, and you as well, Namsa. You know I love you. Well, I'm Kamal. I have multiple websites. The easiest one to reach me is at kamalama.com. I am a life purpose specialist now. I've studied NLP, life coaching, and I've been coaching and training people actually since my first job. So I've been doing training for over 15, 16 years now. What I do is I help people align their life, as you already did on your own, Nick, with their core values and their true self to live a life of purpose. Purpose is not something that you find. It's not obtained. It is something that you uncover from your life. And that is what I do. And rejection, well, rejection, I don't think it exists. But we'll talk about that in a bit, I guess, right? Namsa?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're talking about rejection. Rejection, I think being rejected, it can come as a blessing. That's how I see it. So I'm not muted. Rejection, sometimes it can come to me, I can see it as a blessing, because sometimes we get rejected. There were places where I believe that, okay, maybe I'm gonna apply for this or I'm gonna get this. And when I get rejected, when you get no, it doesn't not mean that necessarily that you're not good enough. So when you are being rejected and getting that no, you have to use it as a blessing and apply. Maybe that's not for you at that moment. So if you keep going, but some people, when they're being rejected, they get rejected through relationship, get rejected businesses, and they think I'm not good enough, so I'm not gonna go and keep going and keep going. They just feel like they take rejection as a defeat, but it's not actually a defeat. So I don't know about you, Amanda, what do you think?
I think, well, because I'm a teacher, and so often kids, if they like get rejected, that they just will like shut down. And so one of the things that I focus on is teaching resiliency and that willingness to try and try and try and try and try. But also one thing that I think that we forget about is is that we need to focus on our strengths sometimes. And that's something that I think school doesn't teach us, is that, and that's something that I try to instill in my students, is how can we take the things that we're already good at and then use that in other areas as well, but still focus on our strengths. Because if you think about it, something that you're not good at or that you don't want to do is not something that you should be focusing all of your time and energy on. You should be focusing on areas that you love to do. But at the same time too, there are areas that we just have to do because that's life, right? Like you have to clean up your house, because unless you're going to pay somebody to do it, nobody's going to do it for you. And so there are still things that we need to do, but I think sometimes we often, if we get rejection, then we just shut down. And what we need to teach children, and what we need to relearn ourselves is if there is something that's a setback, that we need to keep going and have resiliency. And I think really teaching resiliency is something that people need, because if they feel rejected, then they'll just shut down and quit. And those people who really persevere in life are the ones who didn't shut down after that rejection. Even I know I've talked about this before, but the Starbucks founder had like something like 200 rejections from the bank before a bank finally gave him money to start the first Starbucks. And that just shows the resiliency and that power that he had to keep going at the face of rejection. And I think we need to teach that more and instill that more in people, especially because they probably have felt rejected at any point in time throughout life in many different areas. And maybe it's a bad mark on a math test, or that somebody made fun of your drawing or something in school, and that we don't know how that affects us later on in life. And so I always try to teach about, okay, so we all have different strengths and different areas that we're really strong at. And so if math, I just handed back a math test the other day, and I was like, don't worry if you didn't do good. It just tells us these are some areas that we need to work on, but also we still get to have fun in the areas of our strengths, right? Because we don't want to get down on ourselves. It just shows like we need to try a little bit more in this area, and that's all. And so I think that's something that sometimes we just need to think about, is that with that resiliency piece when it comes to rejection. What do you guys think?
Nick or Kamal?
So yeah, as you were talking, Amanda, I was thinking back to my own school journey, and in my earlier education, K to 12, I definitely felt a lot of, I guess, rejection, in the sense of I never did well in any particular subject, like, your math and science and all that stuff. The only things that I kind of excelled in was more artistic and those more option classes as time went on. But I certainly never had a teacher like you who was trying to build up that resiliency. It just always felt like I was never good enough and never smart enough. And I think in a certain sense that, while certainly not easy at the time to go through, I think that it built me up to a certain point where I'm able to deal with some, tragic circumstances and different obstacles in my life. But it certainly would have felt a lot better if a teacher would have been building up my strengths rather than just focusing on those weaknesses. And then for me, I guess it's probably a combination of just stubbornness and determination, I guess, that have gotten me into my career originally, into policing. That certainly didn't just happen overnight. I was rejected. Let me think here. So I was rejected three times, like going through a full application process, which is usually about a year long, before I finally was accepted. And it's funny back with the benefit of hindsight, and to think, oh, maybe the universe was trying to tell me something. But at the same time, I, again, with even more hindsight and a more zoomed out perspective, it all happened exactly how it was supposed to. And for me, I've had the realization that I needed to experience all of that, and all of the darkness and the tragedy and the human suffering that I was witness to as part of my career, in order for me to be in this place right now and moving forward in my life to a place of being out of the shadow and into the light. So it, for me, happened exactly how it was supposed to, but I certainly wish I would have had a teacher who would have focused on my gifts more than my struggles, basically. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. How about you guys?
So I heard resilience, and I love that word because, well, you want to move forward, right? And what I heard from you as well, Nick, is that perseverance of I'm not giving up. You know, I'm still going to apply. I'm still going to do it again, and I'm going on and on and on. And there was a very smart man that told me, he's a friend of my mom's, but he's the husband of my mom's best friend. And I was having a discussion with him a while back, and he said what we teach in sales is that the word no doesn't exist. It means next opportunity. And so if we consider any rejection that happens in our life to be an eye-opener for a new opportunity, or for us to push forward, to lean onto our strengths, to persevere and do something better, or try more, not try, or do more, or use the expression or the acronym that I love, which is we fail, which we first attempt in learning, and we continuously do that, then rejection is a stepping stone. Rejection is a step forward for us. Obviously, there are those that use rejection as crutches, and they use it to victimize themselves, and they use it for many, many reasons. So the question is, how are you using rejection in your life? How are you using anything that happens to you in your life? When it comes to rejection, I've rejected myself into achieving what I've wanted to do several times. I attended 3 different universities, and I flunked out because it wasn't working for me. Little did I know that I had to wait a little bit longer to realize that, you know what, that's not what you want to study. And once I found out what I wanted to study at this age, which I'm very grateful for, everything seems to be going the way it's supposed to be going. So that's why I was saying earlier, I don't believe in rejection. It doesn't exist. It's just a concept that we are putting into our mind, a concept that we are living by to, I want to say, sometimes use it as a hanger, because you know what, we want to have a hanger. We want to hang stuff on. We don't want to take the blame. We don't want to feel bad about ourselves. We want to be good. Doesn't mean I couldn't handle it. Like, I remember when I was younger and I had a few buddies, when I was in a cabin crew, and cabin crew are notorious, at least the guys, to either be to being those that are very straight, they sleep around, and the others are gay. There's no in between. And what happened is that I would go out with my friends into clubs and pubs, and I would see these guys going from one woman to the next and getting rejected and getting rejected and getting rejected. Now, to me, that, of course, we're talking about different things, but the concept of putting yourself out there and having that, no, I don't want to have a drink. No, I don't want to go out with you. To me, that was unfathomable. That was like, why do you put yourself in that situation? Of course, it's a different concept, but it still revolves around that idea of rejection and how people handle it. I wasn't brought up that way, nothing to do with it. For me, it's a no-go to do that. I'm old school, you know, you court a lady and you poetry and you talk and you go out, and yet rejection is something that we all encounter. We've all been through it. So that's my point about rejection so far. Nonsa.
I like it when you Amanda mentioned the guy from Starbucks, how many times he was rejected. He didn't give up, and I'm glad that he didn't give up. I wouldn't have get to experience the coffee, the hot chocolate. Because I see my daughter just before she goes to school, sometimes she passes through Starbucks and after school. So we wouldn't been able to have the joy that we have with the Starbucks and going with our businesses when we are planning. Sometimes you get out of the office and go and sit down and work at Starbucks. Some people do. And also, Nick, he said you got rejected so many times and you never really gave up. You kept going, and that's why you are here today. And Kamal, you mentioned that when sometimes you had friends that were going around and going with different people. And it shows that rejection is not really rejection. It's like when someone has their own problems, and or sometimes if somebody, they don't see what you see. And I think I was talking to someone who was on the talk show the other day, and this person said, was it off talk show? I can't remember. He said she had this, read the book, and someone said, let's say you are standing on the sea, by the sea, you're standing on the other side, and the other person is standing on the other side. The number that you see number 6, and the other person, when they're looking at number 9. But does it mean if both of you, your views will be different? Does it mean both of you are wrong? She was like, no, it does not mean that you're wrong. So if somebody comes into your life and let's say you present your business or let's say relationship and they reject you, does it mean that you have to stop going? No, it doesn't. You can pick yourself up and keep going. And I like, Amanda, when you actually teach the kids to be actually to understand what rejections mean, because some people get wound up in that. I see rejection as a delay. When somebody rejects you, emotionally, everything goes to your brain. Your brain start producing chemicals because it basically, what happens is the response of the brain, it fires up that pain. So when that fires up that pain, you go into a delay moment where how you respond. Some people, they'll respond well with delay, like myself. If I get rejected now, I respond well with delay because now I understand with the rejection, because to me, it's not a rejection. I see it as something that is there to delay my life, to make me think I'm not good enough, to make me believe that I cannot be the person that I want to be. But actually, let's say if I present my business plan to somebody and they say, I don't think that your business is good enough for us to invest in this. It does not mean that it's not good enough. And that's why the guy from Starbucks did not believe. Enter a relationship and someone says, okay, I don't want to be with you. Does it mean that your life must stay? No, it means your life must go on. It means that you pick yourself up. Yes, it's going to hurt, but it means you pick yourself up and you go on. If you choose to be single, that is a choice. But if you choose to be single just because what you were told, for me, I would say to somebody, if you are watching, you need to get in touch with these coaches that goes to talk shows. If you have held your life because of rejection, thinking that you are not good enough, because I believe that you are unique. Over to you, Amanda.
I really like what Kamal said about that failing forward and the first attempt at learning, because that's one of the things that we try to teach in the classroom as well. And I think that's something that so often we forget about. We forget about that that this is just our first attempt. And then I think about when I first was learning how to self-publish on Amazon, and it took me so long to learn how to do everything, and I'd like mess up, and then I'd try again, and then I'd do all of these different things. And now it's like takes me not long at all to get something up on Amazon. And so it's really like you have to go through that process of learning, and it takes time, and it doesn't happen as quickly as you want it to sometimes. And when you're learning something new, it takes just so much longer. But then when you go back and you do it again, it's so much faster. And then the next time it's faster again, and then the next time it's faster again. It's like, even when you play piano or something, the first time you attempt a new song, it's like, I listened to my daughter trying a new song yesterday, and I was like, but then she tried it again, and it got a little bit better, and she tried it again, and it got a little bit better, until she could play the whole song properly. And it just is that resiliency to keep trying. But if she'd stopped after her first attempt, then she would have never heard the song the way it was supposed to sound, right? And so that's something that I think we forget. And we forget, like, when you're a baby, when you're learning to walk, you don't stand up and try to walk once and then give up because you fell over. And you keep going, and you keep trying and persevering. And I think that's something that's super important. I like what Nick said too, about like that you kept trying, and then you're like, maybe it's the universe telling me I shouldn't have gone into that. But then looking back now, that's actually exactly where you're meant to be. And I look at that a lot, especially with regards to relationships, because I look at what I've been through and what other people I know have been through. And I always just think any relationship comes with an opportunity to learn. And so if you're being rejected by someone, then it's an opportunity to learn. And that rejection might have nothing to do with you. It might actually have to do with them and the point that they're at in their lives and their journey. And it might not, you might be a really great, amazing person and just not finding the right person at this point in time, because you have, they're going through something, that person that you're like thinking that you wanted, right? Is they're going through something that you don't understand, because sometimes timing is everything. And like Nick said, that timing, looking back on things, is 2020, because now he realizes that he had to go through all of that in order to get where he is today. And I think that's something that we forget, to be gentle with ourselves when we're going through a hard time and we're feeling rejected, is that when we look back and we zoom out, it really could be like one of the best learning opportunities that you have is a time where you've been rejected, or a time when something's fallen apart. And that's how I try to view any struggle that I've had, is what can I learn from this situation, and how can this help me grow? And so I think if we shift it into those two, any rejection or struggle, if we switch it into what can I learn and how can we grow from this, then the opportunity for growth just becomes so much more positive and bigger. Whereas if we look at it, oh, I've been rejected, I'm going to just like crumble down and be a lesser version of myself, then that's your perspective. And Kamal talked about perspective, Nomza talked about perspective, and how you can view two things, the same thing, from two different sides, and neither of you are wrong, because you're looking at it from a different angle. And I think that's something too, that we can actually walk around to the other side and be like, oh, from this side it is a 9. And then you can bring the other person over and say, oh, this is actually a 6 when you look at it from this side. And that's actually empathy. And our ability to view something from somebody else's perspective is empathy. And that's something that we weren't taught in schools. And I think that's something that needs to be taught now. It's actually one of the books that I wrote is called I'm Empathetic, teaching kids about empathy. And it really is about looking at things from somebody else's perspective. And even if you don't completely understand, just holding space for that, while at the same time ensuring that you are not giving all of your energy out to that person or situation, that you're still setting clear boundaries with yourself and what it is that you need to learn and grow for you. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's great advice, Amanda. I love that. The piece on empathy and compassion. And it's something that, yeah, we're just not taught in our traditional society and schooling at this point. And I think that it would be a really good thing to teach people, because it's certainly had a big impact on my life, is accepting love and compassion, and having compassion, which are, yeah, two of the highest vibrations that exist. And it's something that, yeah, we're not even shown as children if we're not exposed to that through our parents. So I think that's great. So I was thinking about, for the viewers too, is how do you know when you're kind of just beating your head against a wall and it's time to just give up, or when it's time to push through and persevere and move through those struggles? And that is always going to be the question, right? And I was thinking about my own life and my own journey, and for me, it's if I look back on the times when I, yeah, should have persevered and pushed through compared to should have given up, it's a feeling for me. It's in my heart, when I really get quiet and just listen to my intuition. I can tell where I should be pushing through and where I should be, okay, this isn't happening. I need to move on with other options. So I'll give you an example. So I, my wife and I sold our house in early 2021. Just, house wasn't even for sale. It just, someone approached us, wanted to buy it. We thought, oh, what the hell? Why not? We'll sell our house here. And so we did. And then the opportunity to purchase a property that was actually kind of our dream property presented itself. So we just kind of went for it and moved into this place, this dream place, but it was actually still under construction. So that main house was complete, but there was a carriage house in the back, so like another residence above a garage in the back, which was still under construction. And so we couldn't get a mortgage on a property that was still under construction. So we moved into this place, renting it for the time being while the carriage house was completed. So moved in, and immediately, like, there was red flags steady from this builder. Like, just, he wasn't doing what he was saying he was doing or going to do. And like, weeks went by, months went by, and through trying to apply for a mortgage for this place, it just, like, we were just hitting brick wall after brick wall. And it was an expensive property. It was way outside of probably, well, not probably, definitely was way more than what we should have been spending. But we were at a point in our lives where we were like, what we were doing wasn't making us happy, so this will make us happy. And it was the worst time stress wise I can ever remember in my life. Like, losing sleep and just feeling just terrible every day, anxious, and all of those things. And it took feeling that bad and having it get that bad for me personally to realize, okay, this is me, or the universe teaching me a lesson, that I don't need this fancy 1 point whatever $1 million house. It doesn't make me happy. In fact, the exact opposite was true for me. When I was in that place, it was beautiful and it was what I thought I needed, but how I felt when I was there was not good. And so finally we heeded our lessons from the universe, and we were able to get out of that deal. It cost us a little bit, but another lesson. And we moved into, actually, my wife's the house she grew up in on a farm, and super simplified life, and figured out where we wanted to be, and which is where we're living now in Sylvan Lake, Alberta. And we downsized to a 1,300 square foot townhouse and just minimized all of our things. And that's what feels good. And what I learned in that process is that, well, things don't make me happy. And so that's an amazing lesson for any of us to learn. But for me in particular, that's what it took, was that just terrible low of lows place. That's what it took for me to finally learn that lesson. So I'm super grateful for it, but I'll never do that again to myself because I've actually learned that lesson. And so I guess that's getting back to rejection and resiliency and all of that is that you got to find that balance between being resilient and pushing through, because I could have pushed through that, and I'm sure we could have, through B or C lenders, we could have got a mortgage on that place, but it wouldn't have been the right thing. As opposed to, so that's on the resiliency side, compared to just kind of surrendering to the flow of life in a sense too at times, and then just trusting what feels good. So pushing through and getting that loan on that huge property, could have done it for sure, or else could have surrendered and just been like, okay, this isn't right, and moved on and heeded my lesson. And thankfully that's the route that we chose, and I'm super grateful for it. So yeah, that's kind of a story about, I guess, those two opposites ends of the spectrum.
That's a wonderful story, though, and it does teach a lot about that resilience, and how, going to revert it to you, how you rejected yourself, in essence. You rejected how things were meant to happen. You rejected the world, and it's exactly what I want to talk about. That it's really a hit to our ego, that rejection. This is why it hurts a lot. It's the ego that is like ashamed and embarrassed and like, that hurt. No, I'm gonna do something else about it. And so a lot of people don't know how to handle that part of rejection. And the most important thing is, as most feelings, is to sit with those feelings, accept them, and let them envelop you a little bit and understand them. Talk with those feelings. Once you understand how you're feeling about this situation, it's not why you're feeling that way about this situation, is how it made you feel. And the answer is, how is that preventing you from moving forward, and what can it teach you, like Amanda's saying, right? These are the questions that we ought to ask ourselves in order to move forward and learn from those so-called rejections. A lot of people just dust them off and say, it doesn't matter, I got to know next, but that accumulates, right? These are like any feelings that you suppress. You're meant to feel that rejection. You're meant to understand how it hits you, whether it hits your deep ego or is just hurting you because it's something that you really wanted. Now, there are a lot of verses from plenty of books and quotes, and I'll sum it up in the simple way. What you might think to be good for you is actually bad for you. And what you believe to be bad for you might actually be good for you. Now, you will find that written in very different ways in plenty of spiritual books, in plenty of religions, in different ways. But there's a reason behind that. And the reason behind it is that we actually don't know what the universe is serving us. So accepting what is being given to us at face value, being content with what is happening, following in the flow with the universe, that aligns us with ourselves and the universe, and it helps us to move forward instead of fighting. We're in a constant fight with ourselves. We're in a constant fight with the universe. No, I'm in control. I'm a human being. I got the power, like He-Man. And we are so arrogant to believe that we are powerful because, well, we're humans. We have a brain. We think higher than others. And we ignore the most important part of our humanity, which is our feelings. So getting rejected is part of our humanity, understanding that it is a stepping stone, understanding that we need to sit with those feelings to be able to learn how to not get rejected, to learn how to change the way we expressed what we wanted to express, to get the grant, to get the loan, to get the mortgage, whatever it is, right? Like all of those famous people got rejected 1,000 times, right? Like who was it? The guy from Kentucky, he got rejected several times until he was like 64 or 65, and that's when he made his KFC. Steve Jobs got rejected. Bezos got rejected. What's his name? I love the guy. Ma, the guy from Alibaba, he got rejected. He got rejected from McDonald's for a job, I think, or several other things. Plenty of people got rejected. And they used this as an opportunity for themselves to grow into the people that they are today. And this is what you've done, Nick, by, okay, you know what? Let me give up this and go somewhere else. Am I growing there? I'm growing there. And everything is going into flow. Obviously, the flow as well with your brand, and everything is going step by step because you are accepted and you've learned from that so-called rejection. Because I just said in the beginning, rejection doesn't exist. You, Amanda, you've persevered and you've learned how not to publish on Amazon until you've finally learned how to publish on Amazon, and you've worked through it. But these are personal rejections because it's not working, it's not working, it's not working. And then you finally manage it, you persevere, you go through the parts that push you forward. You're teaching children about empathy so that they understand others, and understanding others is crucial to that rejection, because we need to allow others to sit in that space of feeling bad if they want to feel bad for themselves. Oh, this girl didn't like me. It's okay. Plenty of fish in the sea. You know, it's important to be there for others as well. But most importantly, like you mentioned earlier, Amanda, is to learn how to be kind to yourself. So I'll pass the mic to Nomsa.
I like what Kamal was saying, that so I'm gonna talk a thing about this. There's a course in scriptures. For me, I'm gonna talk about the scriptures in the Bible. 1 Peter 2 is verse 4. It says, "As you come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans, but chosen by God and precious to him." And for me, that's what I use, the scriptures, when I'm being rejected by people, or when I'm being rejected by people in business or relationship. I have to ask myself, this person that is rejecting, who are they to my life? Who are they to God? If God was rejected by people, so what makes me different? I am going to face rejection as I live, as I'm a human being that is living on earth. I'm gonna face rejection. Some people, they might tell me that I'm not good enough. And I have experienced it even on social media, like when I'm looking for speakers, and the speakers will be like, wow, gossip talk shows, I don't think so, meaning that I'm actually better than gossip talk shows. So, and I'm like, okay, thank you very much, but I don't feel hurt, because what somebody sees not good, it doesn't mean that it's not good. In gossip talk shows, it's not good. It means it's not what they are looking for. People are just looking to be famous instead of serving people. For me, and I was like, I'm proud of the speakers that I hear in gossip talk shows, because they are serving communities, and people are sending messages saying, oh, I watched your talk shows, I did this, I did this. And there was a girl, actually, she watched one of my recordings, and we were singing together around London, and before I stopped performing. And she was like, I was watching your breaking the chains, but I didn't realize it was you. I'm busy crying, and then I'm asking myself, that is Nomsa. And she was like, so I was like, she was like, and I was like, yeah. And she was, and then she started watching the talk show now. She started following the talk show, and she was like, yeah, it does help. And she started telling me her problems, why she's the mistakes that she makes in relationships. And then I said to her, maybe they're not mistakes. Maybe you need to work on what happened when you were a child, because we see things as mistakes. And when things go wrong, like we date people, we pick the wrong people, or we pick the wrong business partners, we see it as a mistake. But to me, I'm learning from it. Like rejections, so many people that when you read like famous people that will tell you that I've been rejected how many times, and you are like, this many times, and they are famous, they're making money, but we can see the beauty of life. But then until somebody tells you the truth that actually I have been rejected, but I didn't give up. That's why this topic is very, very important to anyone who is watching, that you keep getting up no matter what cost. Like what Nick was saying, but you have to get up for the right reasons. Like Nick is saying that there's time where he wanted this lifestyle. He has got kids. He wanted a big mansion for the house. And then he had to ask himself, why do I want this house? It's not making me happy. If you imagine, put yourself in Nick's position, how many people on earth that are going through that, but they think that is the right lifestyle, they deserve it, but it is causing pain. And that's why for me, I did the same with Nick. I had to downsize. And after lockdown, my spouse was annoying me. He was like, I'm really worried that are we going to afford this lifestyle? And I was like, you raise your concern to me, I'm gonna fix it. I don't want to having to live. I want to live with joy. I want to live with freedom. I don't want to live in a huge house that is bringing pain. If I'm not happy or you guys are not happy, we're gonna downsize. So that was, for me, that was my opinion, that you have, when you live a life, it's got to be something that makes you happy. And if that thing does not make you happy, it means that you have to tweak the lifestyle. And does it mean that when you are being rejected by people wanting the business, like I made a decision with the Carol Ann, I was telling Carol Ann, I was watching Shanda Samta, she found a husband in 90 days. In 90 days, she was married, and she basically dumped her husband 17 times a day, and then he married, and she's got kids, and then she got to where she is now. And she was saying, I was like, actually, I can make 1 million in 90 days. So I was like, I need to find an investor, somebody who can help me to invest. And I'm gonna create what she did, I'm gonna create it my own. If I get rejected by people, it does not mean that my business is not good enough. So I'm gonna keep going and find an investor to invest in my business and help me to make 1 million in 90 days. So that's what I'm going to do. I just need to find a plan. I've redone my business plan and redone my cash flow forecast and I had to write my proposal. I was telling Carol Ann that the coach that I want them to help me with this. So I've sat down and written my proposal. This is what I expect the coach to do for my business. And I said to her as well, because she's thinking of getting a coach, I said to her, the mistakes that I made myself when I was doing my business, going on social media, hiring someone to manage my social media, hiring a business coach, it was for me to listen to them, what they are going to do for me. And instead of doing some research first, and if I need somebody to help me with marketing, understand what is required for marketing. So when I sit down and talk to that person, and they're able to explain to me, like YouTube. I've had someone working on YouTube for a year, and I've done research, but I've never gone deep. And now I had an interview sitting down with someone, and they're telling me, explaining how YouTube works. So I'm going now, doing some research, and I'm realizing actually these people are not doing what they're meant to be doing. Doesn't mean they are wrong, or doesn't mean I have to reject them. No, but as simple as somebody would have said, no, I don't want to work with you. But what I've done is I've gone in and corrected every mistake, the things that were not done, because I didn't understand it. And that does not mean they are bad people, but all I've done is explain to them, this is what needs to be done. And they're like, no, sir, yes, I know this is what needs to be done, but you need somebody who has been on YouTube to actually recommend you with this, recommend you with this. So I'm like, why didn't you tell me? And they're like, too many things it has to be done. But I didn't reject them. I had to embrace to God that I'm grateful for these people being in part of my life. But then I had to go in on YouTube and ask YouTubers to recommend me to this code, recommend me to that, so I can link it. And it was fine. It got sorted out very, very quickly. But it was something that they didn't actually tell me that this needs to be done. But as busy, so I was telling Carol Ann that when you work with somebody, make sure you understand what the job that is required, because sometimes we go around and rejecting people, thinking that people are wrong, but while there's a misunderstanding. So it is important, and I'm glad that, Nikki, you made that choice of correcting and saying, you know what, this is not the lifestyle that I want. And look at you now, your business, you are starting your business, and you are here at Ngozi Talk Shows. And I like it when you say, sometimes when you speak, you're like, I'm not like these coaches, and you tell your own story. So I love that. Keep telling that story. And I love it. I think it's amazing to actually realize that you are unique as a person, and whoever comes to your life and watching Ngozi Talk Shows, they're going to see that uniqueness, that this person is unique, and they will relate with your story, and they will sympathize with your story as well, and actually connect with you. So over to you, Amanda. And actually, anyone who is watching Ngozi Talk Shows, if you're at Ngozi Talk Shows page, please, where just help us to reach more audience by giving us some stars. You can comment by typing what you think about the talk show, or you can give so that we can reach more stars. Everything is on you can only do that by going to Ngozi Talk Show's page. Or if you're watching Hope Springs Eternal Introduction Agents page, so all the pages are linked together. Whatever you do on the other page, it goes to the other page. So you can give the stars so we can reach more audience and reach more people, and reach, our goal is to reach 1 million per year. So if we can do that with your help, that will make a big, big difference. And Amanda, do you have anything coming up, or do you have any coaching? And I saw you doing yoga. Is there anything going on in your life at the moment that you would like the audience to be involved? Or in Canada, I know there are Canadian audience that are watching you, that are local. So is the yoga something that you want people to come and join, or do you have any other courses that you're doing or coaching?
I'm building a course right now, which is amazing. So I'll have that up soon on my website. And then I'll have a new book out before Christmas. It's called How Yoga Empowered My Life. And it is a collaborative book with a bunch of different authors, and all telling their stories of empowerment through yoga, which I'm super excited for. So those are some things up and coming that I have a course on empowering your life through creativity, and then the Empowering Your Life Through How Yoga Empowered My Life book is coming out soon. So those are two exciting things that are coming up. I wanted to just comment on Nick's story about the house, because I think so often we have this view in our heads that this is the dream, this is what we want, and so often it's the journey that gets us to where we have to like sit back and enjoy the journey and enjoy those things, and the things that you're not enjoying, get quiet with yourself and really think about, is this what I truly want? And you discovered that, you discovered, no, this isn't what I truly want, this isn't what makes me happy. And I think so often, sometimes if you're in a relationship, because I know when I first read the topic, I thought, oh, she wants us just to talk about relationships with rejection. And because so often rejection is one of the things that hits us hardest when it's about a relationship. And if I was thinking of my marriage and how my ex had wanted to go and buy with this great big house on an acreage just outside of the city, and all of these things. And we had a big house in the city, and I was like, I don't want this. This is not what I want at all. I don't want to have a giant mortgage. We already have all of this debt. Like, this, just going and changing houses isn't going to save our marriage or make us happy. Like, this is not okay. Like, my aunt lives on an acreage. I love acreages, but I know that you're not the person I want to live on an acreage with. Because even in our small house, I shoveled the driveway, I mowed the lawn, I like did all of the cleaning and everything, and I worked full time, and I was doing my master's. And I was like, an acreage just brings on more work. Like, this is ridiculous. This is not going to save anything. And so I was so grateful, because I had thought at one point that I had wanted an acreage as like my goal, but I know, and maybe I will get one down the road with the right person, but to live on an acreage with that person, I was rejecting myself, because I was like, no, I'd rather live in a small house and have these things going for me and be able to focus. Because if you're going to do a big acreage, you need a partner that you can actually count on, because there's just so much involved with those big places. Especially, I don't know, it's different in Europe, but we have like big acreages in Canada just out by where we are. And but they're a lot of work. And you have to be willing to, and recognize that you have to be willing to put in that work to do it. And so I think sometimes when we're thinking about rejection and we're thinking about something that we really wanted, we have to sit and be quiet with ourselves and think about, what is in alignment with me, and is that person in alignment with me? And if they're not, because sometimes we either like grow together in a relationship or we grow apart, and we can like do this the whole time. And sometimes you just need to cut and like go your separate ways. And it's been like 11 or 9 years that I've been divorced, and every single day I'm grateful for my divorce. And so often I think people think they have to stay in a relationship because society will reject them if they don't. And that's so not true, because if you're not living in alignment with yourself in your marriage or in your relationship, then you're going to struggle, and you're going to keep hitting those walls and hitting those things like what happened with Nick in the house, but in a different way, right? It'll just show up in different ways. And I think sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to break free and to reject the things that aren't serving us. So whether it's a relationship or a house or a job or a coworker, something, you get to be the one that gets to reject things sometimes too. It's not just being rejected by other people or other things. Sometimes you can make the conscious decision to say, I don't want this in my life. This is not for me. And when we take that power of rejection and our ability to reject things that aren't serving us, that just empowers our life in so many different ways. Oh, it's time for my daughter to get up. That means it's 7 o'clock here, 7 a.m. Wake up. She's going to reject me about getting up. What do you think, Nick? We should probably start summing up as well.
Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking, as you were talking about your potential move to an acreage and how you realized that was not in alignment for you, is if you would have went along with that, you would have been rejecting yourself, and you would have been out of alignment, and you would have been, it would have been a disaster for you. So good job choosing you. And yeah, I think for me, that's what you need to make sure you're doing, is that you're not rejecting yourself and that you're acting in alignment. And so for me, just to bring it back to my story, is so when I felt out of alignment in that big house, I truly felt that in my soul, and staying there would have been rejecting myself. And so by getting out of that and accepting what was actually meant for me, I got myself into alignment. So that's yeah, I love it. This has been great. How about you, Kamal?
Well, I've been also divorced now for like what, I don't know if separation and divorce counts the same. I'm gonna say I'm divorced 4 years ago. It counts the same for me. But you see, I was rejecting myself as well in that relationship. I was stepping on my values. I was stepping on myself. I was walking on eggshells, and it's I reached a stage where I said, you know what, it's not going to work. It doesn't matter. Even if I have kids, I'm going to share custody. It doesn't matter. It's better for myself. And once I started listening to myself and stopped rejecting myself, that's when everything started to come into alignment, like you were talking about, Nick, and the same thing with you, Amanda. It's fascinating how things fall into place when you really listen to who you are and what you want in life. So I'm in complete alignment with both of you here on that. I know we're coming close to the end, so I'll use this time to leave the audience with a few words of encouragement when it comes to rejection. And I will tell you, learn to communicate with yourself, learn to handle that fear of rejection. I think, what's his name? Robert Kiyosaki, he said something very similar. He said, the better you learn how to communicate, negotiate, and stop the fear of rejection, the easier life is for yourself. I hope I'm quoting him correctly. Usually I'm good with quotes. But and the same thing applies to our lives. Communication is not about negotiating or businesses. Communication is everywhere. It's with yourself, with your partners, and with business and your life. So learn to communicate with that fear of rejection and live with it. And that will be it for me from my end for today. Nomsa.
Thank you so much, everyone. For me as well, I would say, if you're being rejected, and please show some love to yourself, and by trying again, and never give up. Know that if Nomsa didn't make me, Nomsa cannot define who I am or what I can do. So know that you are unique and you can be who you want to be. And we are here at Nkosi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And for those who have been listening, if you are listening to this talk show or later or now, and you want to connect with Kamal, you want to connect with Nick, you want to connect with Amanda, you can go to our page at Nkosi Talk Shows and just send a message, or you can go to www.hscia, send me an email, or you can go to my profile or any of my social media, or you can connect with these guys direct on their social media. Their names, they are on their social media. If you can't get hold of them, just come to me. I'll get them for you ASAP, so they can help you to find your own voice and lead from within and be the person that you are meant to be. By doing the work, of course. They don't do the work for you. They'll show you how. They've done their work, and then you can use it to do your own work and create that framework and find breakthrough. Live with grace, everyone, and